Good back. Good back. Welcome back. What the heck am I trying to say here? To Barstools and Bandtalk with my good buddy Dave, and this is the next in our series of players. We are asked to talk to players, everything from drummers to guitar players to bass players to keyboard players to we're gonna have lighting technicians, sound techs, you name it. So we're lining these folks up, and as we're getting them lined up, I did one. We thought it'd be fun to do the same thing with Dave. So Dave, welcome. We're gonna do a little interview with you.
All right. Thank you very much for having me, Sean. I'm
Well,
really happy to have my name on the cup.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't have a lot of choice. We had to make that happen. So, I mean, I know when you and I met, but when did you actually, start playing?
Good question. Well, I guess I feel like every other kid on American Idol is like, well, I started playing when I was 2. That's not true. I mean, we had a Magnus organ growing up when I was a kid, and you kind of play around with the organ, and you appreciate it. I guess I heard Marnie talk about the J. Chalmers Doan ukulele classes, and I was there with my ukulele too. And my ukulele teacher wanted to kick me out because I wanted to play double time. I want to play it faster than they wanted to play, and I didn't really fit in well with the ukulele crowd. I mentioned the other day on the site that I went to go see a band called Tribute, which was Ian McDougall and Dave Goyash and Stephen Dukes and Dougie Grace. They had an awesome Beatles hymn because I grew up with music, without question. It was Elvis for my mom and Beatles for my aunt, and my aunt always lived very close to wherever we were. So it was always music all the time. And it was not just Elvis and the Beatles. It was probably the Conway Twitties and Charlie Pride. Then there was a lot of Bobby Vinton. It was a lot of the Coasters, a lot of the Motown stuff. It was whatever. It was a lot of good music, I guess. So it was always in me. But when I saw that band play, I wanted to be a musician. I knew I did. I wanted to be a drummer, to be honest, is what I wanted to do. But I wanted to say, I'm going to play in a band one day. And probably 3 years later, I met Mike Freeborn in Woodlawn. I'm not sure how I came to meet him, to be honest, but I think we were probably at the arcade or whatever it was. And he was a drummer, and his brother played guitar. And you should come over to my house and look at my record collection. And he had well over 2,000 albums from bands I've never heard before. At this point, I was already a big fan of Rush. I liked Black Sabbath a lot, and I liked Led Zeppelin. But Iron Maiden had just come on the scene, so I kind of delved into a little bit of the heavier stuff. But when I saw their record collection, I was like, oh my God, it was opened my mind to so much new music. And Ken played guitar, Mike played drums, and Ken was going to teach me how to play guitar if I got one. So do you remember Scott Kelly, Woodlawn?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I bought my very first guitar from him.
Kelly used to go with Scott Kelly went out with Maria Zaney. Yes, I remember.
Okay. I bought my very first guitar from him, and it was a Sears Stratocaster, just like Eddie Van Halen had. It's a Sunburst. I remember very clearly. I think it was $75 I paid for it, and that was my first guitar. And I got a Sears amplifier. They had amplifiers too, and that was it. So I had to buy some kind of a pedal to make it sound like my heroes at the time, which would have been all the, I guess, probably Dave Murray from Iron Maiden and Angus Young from AC/DC. I needed a distortion pedal, so I needed to find a distortion pedal. I spent a lot of my time over on Gotcha Street at Herb's Music Store, Harry's General Store, where I first met Maurice LeCoin, trying to buy these pedals. I couldn't afford the ones at Music Stop, so I had to go there instead. But that was it. Once I started playing guitar, Mike and I were just going to be rock stars. That was it.
And I got to credit Mike Kelly went out with Maria Zaney, and Scott Kelly was his brother, his younger brother. And I do remember. And I remember Mike Freeborn because Mike became this wicked punk, sort of aggressive. I think if you mention the word ballad around Mike, you might get a chair in the head. But I mean, he was, but just a well-rounded. First time I heard of Max Webster was talking around Mike.
Yeah.
I remember. So the first time you and I met, it was actually really funny. The basement of St. Thomas More Church. I'm with Woodlawn. You're living in what was it? Westfall? Was that what your area was considered?
I was probably up around Strath Lane then. Yeah, up in Westfall. I hadn't moved back to Central Dartmouth yet. I called the Skid Row side of Manor Park on Serenity Avenue in the hood. I don't think I was back to that address yet then, but yeah, we went to St. Thomas More for our whole lives. So yeah.
Well, it was the confirmation thing. You stuck in the basement today, and we're in these little groups. And I'm over with this one group, and you're over with this one group, and so it's like, I probably shouldn't. I'm in a church. I probably shouldn't say that I play in a band. And this girl stands up because they were doing the icebreaker. This is Dave. Dave's a guitar player. He plays in a band called Hellraiser. And through a course of lots of whatever the heck it was, and bad sandwiches and food, you and I hung out, and just kind of that's how it started. So you mentioned the Sears gear and all that stuff. I mean, what was the and I guess I should say you were playing piano a little bit, dabbling in a little bit of piano up to that point, were you not?
Well, no. In fact, even when I joined Sweet Surrender, I kind of lied and said I was a keyboard player, but I really wasn't. I learned pretty quickly. Dabbled a little bit. I had a girlfriend who was a piano teacher, so she taught me some skills, and I learned some skills that way. And I really wish I'd taken lessons. When I think back now, Sean, it's funny because as we're going to develop this, well, talking my other voice now, as we develop this player series, we're going to talk about how people get started with the whole thing. I didn't. I kind of wish I had taken lessons. Ken Freeborn gave me my very first instructions on guitar. He goes, here's this chord, here's this chord, here's this chord, and here's a pentatonic scale. Learn that, and that's all Ace Frehley from Kiss ever used, and you can be great. Okay, and that's all I knew, and that's kind of how it started. And Mike and I started jamming. So so Hellraiser, yeah. So I
Well,
started growing my hair right away. I was 13 years old, I guess. It's like, okay, I can't play yet, but I'm going to look the part, and I was going to start growing my hair, and I wanted to rebel, and Mom and Dad were getting divorced. I was mad at the world, so I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a guitar and be a rock star, and that was it. So I never really looked back after that in terms of options, I suppose. But
and Hellraiser was, and I don't remember because I used to hang out with Todd Zaney. I don't remember when Todd became part of that. But you guys were the how would I describe it? You guys were the Leather and Studs band, right? You were like the Judas Priest, and you were the Maiden, and we'll call it the new wave of English heavy metal sort of feel.
yeah,
And then my band, White, was kind of like the hair metal, Motley Crue, whatever. So every time we did a talent show, it was always Hellraiser, China White, and it was kind of like, you guys had your crowd, but we had our crowd, and it was really funny. It was almost like you could separate them down the middle.
yeah.
And so when you guys got on, it was everybody that liked the new wave of British heavy metal, and when we got on, it was the girls. I'm just kidding. Anyway,
Well, inspired
but
the way you did it, but yeah.
I mean, well, let's call it what it is. I honestly I personally didn't get involved in music to become a virtuoso. I got involved in music because I liked the tunes, and it was probably a way to, drink some beer and the Vince Neil story, drink some beer and hang out with some girls. I've gotten, okay in my own way, but I'm not one of these guys that necessarily cares about everybody coming up to me and telling me how great I am. You and I have always had that kind of same philosophy. We always just say, I'm a natural.
It's true. I never. Well, it's funny you mentioned because I thought I started early. Like I mean, and I don't want to pretend to be a hero, but there's so many other players that came after me are so much better than me, but they start playing because of me. Because I had the cool guitar for that hot pink BC Rich Warlock, and it was, oh man, he's great. I wasn't great. I was never a great guitar player, but I looked cool. And at the end of the day, like these guys took it and they locked themselves in the room and became awesome. Perfect example of that, Kevin McCann. We were, we heard stories about this guy who locked himself in a room for 6 months and became this wicked guitar player, and he was a wicked guitar player. It's like I just didn't have discipline for that. I wish I did, but I just didn't. And then I watched folks like Peter Dolmont and so many others. It's like, you know what? I don't think I can compete with those guys. Maybe I'll focus on rhythm guitar. I'll be the rhythm guitar player and let them guys be the lead guitar player. That'll be fine, And then as things developed, there's 39 members in Hellraiser, Lord God in heaven. So my biggest claim to fame there is we played the Dartmouth Needle Day Parade in 1985, I think. with my new
On the
friend
float.
Trevor Asher playing bass,
Yeah.
and another new friend Phil DeRoche playing drums, just to drop some names. So that was my Hellraiser career. We won some talent shows for Funeral 4 and did some stuff and whatever it was, but it was, I mean, we were playing everything from Frank Marino to Teenage Head, from Teenage Head to Queen, the Queen to Iron Maiden. So it was all over the place. I mean, so make a long story short, go ahead.
Well, to close the loop on that, because it's like, you know, you and I always used to say all the time, we're naturals, we'll figure it out. And, you know, you mentioned, you know, guys that came after you, and I don't know, like maybe when I personally was in high school, I want to be the best of the best. Then I just got to the point where I had some natural ability and I was able to do some stuff, as were you. But I maybe decided, you know, I was going to be more of the show guy, or I was going to be more of the out front guy. And so I always found that, you know, there was maybe a commitment level that I wasn't always 100% willing to do, that maybe a Warren Robert was on guitar or a Mark Graves was on drums. But I still did okay. And, you know, and you and I both had that same sort of thought process in that.
What I realized early on, Sean, is that my forte was to be on stage. You know what I mean? I was the virtuoso. Like when I first met Warren Robert, he was 15 years old and I was 17. He said, or 13. No, he might have been 14. He said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a conductor. It's like, oh, that's fucking weird. But he had this natural ability, and it's like, you know what? That kid probably will be a conductor one day. And sure enough, he could be a conductor. But that's when I first met him. But I met so many people, and that was my claim to fame, is that my superpower is that I will find and attach myself to super talented people. You know what I mean? And I'm, don't get me wrong, I'm an okay player. I went for that whole spiel of being a guitar player, and I had some nice gear. I went from that old Sears Strat to the Gibson RD, which stood for really dumb, I think, that I bought from Ken Freeborn. Ace Frehley from Kiss had one, and it was, you know, it was a nice feeling guitar, but it sounded horrible. So I actually bought my Gibson Challenger from Andy Jeffrey from Tyrant, who were big heroes of mine. That was a big turning point in my life, 1984, when I met those guys. And I bought that guitar for him. That was like a little bit of a Les Paul, and then a different sound. I love the sound of that guitar. From that guitar, I went to the BC Rich, and the BC Rich gained some notoriety. Rob Donnelly talks about it all the time on this site, you know, about this guitar. But it was about the show. It was like, okay, let's do what we need to do to get on stage and play. And that's what it came right down to. And it didn't really matter what we were playing. It didn't matter how good we were. It's that we were just having fun. And it was myself, Mike Freeborn. We met up with Todd Zaney, who became this vocalist in Hellraiser. We had him. Well, we didn't even have a bass player for the longest time. Eventually, we got Tim Carlton, who ended up being, I guess, a model for Playgirl, just saying. And Tim Carlton was a rhythm guitar player. And then we ended up getting Brad Bradley, who I commonly refer to as Wally, as a bass player. And then that lineup played for a long time. Mike decided to go more as the alternative route with punk music. And I loved some of his music. He was introduced me to bands like the Rosellos, the Sex Pistols. And I love that stuff. That's part of my DNA. I think is that more rebellious side. And I love the side of it, but I like the melodic side of it. I like good harmonies and good guitar work and nice time. I just didn't like when it was all sloppy. I didn't enjoy that. The Ramones I didn't like as much as the Sex Pistols, you know, but I liked the Rosellos more than I did with Dead Kennedys. So it was just that stuff. It just didn't appeal to me. Around that time, Metallica came out, and that didn't appeal to me. I didn't like that either. It was just too heavy. You know, I liked what I liked when I liked it. I'm a bit of a diva that way. So then I started going back in the vault and listening to things like, back to my Beatles influences, and listen to Journey, and listen to Foreigner, listen to, so many other bands that had such just great melodic harmonies. And I wish I could have sang, but I really couldn't. I did backup vocals, but I couldn't really sing. Let's bring us forward to back when you and I met. I was playing. I'll tell you what. Here's how the funny story of this worked out. Todd Zaney had a band called Adrenaline, which stole the name from me. So he wanted to call our band Adrenaline Surge after a Rush lyric, but he took Adrenaline, and they were looking for a bass player. It's like, well, you know, I'll play bass for a little while, just until you find a real bass player. There was him and Dean Reinhold and Andy Ham, who had played in my band Hellraiser and gone on to, with him with Adrenaline. And Andy Ham's brother was Robert McClellan, or brother, stepbrother, I guess, was Robert McClellan, who came down to the basement of Dean Reinhold's place one day. And I was just, my hair is very long with it. And it looked good. I'm playing bass. I couldn't play bass. But anyhow, I'm playing bass with these guys. And he said, we're looking for a guitar player, a keyboard player for this band called Sweet Surrender. I was like, oh, yeah, I could probably play guitar and keyboards. Who's in the band? Peter Dolman, Sean McKenna, Ian Fancy, and Rob Barstow. I was like, I don't know who Rob Barstow is. I know the other guys very well, right? I'm in. And that's kind of how that went out. It's just small little things. So, Todd's probably still mad at me, I guess, for not playing bass with him anymore. But that's how I came to join China White into Sweet Surrender. So, but I don't know if you ever knew that story or not, but that's kind of how that went down.
Well, yes and no. And I mean, the way that we met Rob was through Andy. Andy had told Rob that we were playing a variety show and he needed to come out. We didn't know he was in the audience. And I remember when it was on Cable 10, I remember twice during the show, a stick went flying. And I'm sitting there playing with one stick in the hand, nobody give me a hand. And this guy comes running out of the crowd and hands me the drumstick. And I don't know who the fuck it is. And it was Rob. And after the show, he's like, yeah. What he said was, we got to replace your singer, but you three are really good. We got to find you a keyboard guitar player. And that was kind of what got us going in the bars. But just to backtrack, one of the things I always remember about Dave, you mentioned that BC Rich, and the other thing was that yellow friggin' Boss overdrive pedal that gave you your nickname for so many years.
Well, it's funny because I tried, Distortion Dave. I talked about.
You crank shit out of that puppy, right?
Well, around that time, I was a big fan of Randy Rhoads too. Now, I could never ever play like Randy Rhoads, but I loved his sound. He had the Marshall, and he had the Gibson or the Jackson, right? So I really wanted to emulate that sound, but he had this MXR distortion pedal. So I searched everywhere. Now, this is long before the days of the internet. You had to look on different. Well, the Bargain Hunter, or the buy and sell was called later on, whatever. The Bargain Hunter was a great source of resources back then.
Herbs.
And you go to the Sobeys bulletin board. The Sobeys had the coolest stuff. I get so much cool gear off the Sobeys bulletin board. It's unbelievable, the stuff I got there. So I found this MXR distortion pedal. It had a big friggin' stomp on it. You got to come onto it to turn it off and on. Had its own cord. It was hardwired in with a 3-prong grounded plug. And I love that thing. But sometimes you need just a little bit more. So I used to use a DOD overdrive on top of the MXR distortion pedal. All of them at 10, with my Yamaha. Oh, there's an ugly amp. A Yamaha amp with the BC Rich, and I loved it. Now, no one else liked it. I hate to think of a sound trying to mix it because it was just. But I could play it, man. I could freaking play it because
I remember the show you did with us at PA, and you got up and you got another thing coming, and you hit one chord, and the rest of that tape was exactly. Too funny.
Distortion Dave. That's where it started.
Yeah.
Well, then Spinal Tap came out shortly after that, so it was like, if they were 11, I wanted to be 12. That's kind of what my plan was. It's like everything just up and just see how it goes, right? But I didn't think it would tone or what it would sound like. I had no clue. I just knew that it was easier to play because I don't know why, it just was, right? So yeah.
So I don't remember at what point you kicked the guitar aside and started picking up the bass.
Well, that's a funny story too. So that
was
probably way forward then, because after that I bought that Gibson SG. I don't know where I got that from, and I love that guitar. That's the guitar I had all through Sweet Surrender and through Excess Energy and into Cradle. That guitar, it was a great. So it's 1963 Gibson SG. I didn't know at the time that I had find my Marshall Stagger, my little half. It was a 101 Marshall combo. I think it was Pendleton, but anyhow, it was a great sound. I love the sound from it. Not everybody else did. Don't really care, but that's what I like. And I was playing keyboards, obviously, in that point. So Three Surrender in Excess Energy and Cradle, I was playing guitar and keyboards. Keyboards is a funny story because Peter Arsenault, excuse me. Well, actually, in Sweet Surrender, I didn't own a keyboard. I borrowed one from Trevor Axford, and the other one came from, I think, Egypt Man. So I had two keyboards. One had a piano sound, and one had more of a string sound. So I had one of either stand, and I kind of play them like that. Is how I would play it. And then Access Energy, I had to get my own gear finally, I guess. So it was the same day, and folks that may watch this, and again, I don't pretend to be here, or I'm not a great player, but I love my gear. It was the same day as the Core Game 1 came out at Music Stop, and Peter Esselon and I walked in there. I said, man, I love the sound of this. It has that sound that sounds like the flame from Cheap Trick. He goes, no, man, you want a DX7. That's what you want. I was like, I don't think I do. I think I want this Core Game 1. It was like $5,000. And he goes, there's one here called a DX5 or DX5. It's like 2 DX7s is better. It's like, because it's a full set of keys. And that was like $6,800. Like, yeah, but that sounds rinky dink and this sounds great. He said, no, you want this one? I was like, so I don't know why this is, but I ended up buying this friggin' DX5 bullshit keyboard from hell. Anyhow, this is my friend Ian talked about this. The F05 used to call it the Family Organ 5 because it didn't give any of the sounds than the old family organ that I used to have, the Magnus organ. But anyhow, the Yamaha F05. Yeah. So I should have got that M1. I would have had that M1 today. I know I would have because I love the sound of that. But anyhow, I digress. So I had that all through Excess Energy and into Cradle. Cradle, they wanted to go a different route, and it was conflict of interest. Let's just say I split from the band. Okay,
Yeah.
That's how that kind of went down. I got a call from Todd Harry, and probably from Dwayne, I guess, to join a band called Glory Glory. Now, Glory Glory, after Cradle, was myself, Todd Harry playing bass and singing, Tommy Bona, amazing drummer and singer, and of course Warren Robert, who I met up with again, 10 years later after he's, this kid who wants to be a conductor. So these are amazing players. So I'm a natural, but I'm a hack, and these guys are amazing players. So I work hard. If I'm going to play guitar and keyboards with this band, I'm going to really have to work hard. We were doing some complicated stuff. We were doing, some U2, some level 42, Steppenwolf. I was like, oh my God, I need to really learn to play this thing. So I really worked hard with that. We did some original stuff. And I was really proud of that band. We only played for the better part of a year, but then I had to make a choice. Either get a real job or keep on going, right? And I got a job at the Bay and as a manager of the photography studio. And I said, boys, I can't do this anymore. So I had to kind of get off the road. And I took a little hiatus there. Then I started going out with this lady, who was mother of my child, my oldest child. Her cousin was starting a band. And you might know this name. It's called Chad Campbell. Started a band called Members Only. They needed a bass player. I'm thinking, how hard can that be? Got 4 strings. I'm sure I could do that, right? And that was it. Now, we were practicing Above the Misty Moon in Members Only. It was myself, Chad Campbell, Chris Westall, Dana's brother. Excuse me, Todd Burke was a keyboard player, and Chris McIsaac is the drummer, who ended up going up with Shameless later on. So I didn't have any gear. I didn't have a bass or an amp or anything. So, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he had this, I think it was a Spectre bass, had this crazy Trace Elliott cabinet and a Herc. It was just ridiculous, the gear that he had up there. He goes, just use it, man. You're really good. I was like, okay. So I had no clue what I was doing. Only using the pick. I could never use my fingers then. So at that point, I became the bass player, Members Only, and we played a handful of gigs. It was a good band. And I had all this wonderful gear that I didn't belong to. But that was my first introduction of playing bass in probably 1991, maybe 91. Excuse me. And after that, kind of folded. I met up with my friend Trevor again, Trevor and Derek Belfonte, 2 old friends of mine, of yours too. And we decided we were going to go all west because the music scene was happening over in Vancouver, and we were going to start a band and go there. So now I'm a bass player. I bought my own bass now. I bought an Ibanez Soundgear 5-string. That'd be better than 4 strings. And a PV database amp, which was heavy as fuck. It really was just 300 watts. And it was digital power, bullshit, blah, blah, blah. But it sounded good. It was loud. It was good. And we started that band called Mirror Image. So Mirror Image was myself, Trevor, and Derek. And we were going to be a 3-piece band. Play around here, get some money, and go west. Anyhow, Trevor's going to be the main singer. I'd do some backups. And we were kind of limited to what we could do. It was just like, okay, how many of these Steve Miller songs can we do? He's like, because that's kind of what, you know, he felt comfortable singing. So I said, let's get a chick singer. I got just the girl. She used to work at Alfredo Weinstein and Ho. She used to go with a friend of mine from the Bay, Lisa Melanson. So she came in as a singer of Mirror Image. Found her, I can't remember where she was working at the time. Anyhow, I said, come on, we're going on the road. You're going to be a rock star. It'd be great. Okay. And away we went. And that was Mirror Image. We did that for about a year. And then, again, of course, now I'm a father, so I'm feeling guilty. I can't really be on the road all the time. And we're going over well, but it's like, you know, we did one final tour in Newfoundland, and I said, I can't do it anymore. That's it. I'm out. So I left. Trevor left shortly afterwards. Now, Mirror Image had a great run almost 10 years after that with Lisa and Derek and Steve Zatt, Larry Hall, John Nicholson. So all the other people came in, and the band kept going, which is great. But then I was a bass player with gear who didn't play. That was so I kind of hung up then. I was a dad. I was 1995. I said, that's it. I'm gonna get. Oh, sorry, I forgot about your brother's band. So then I get one more shot. We kick the can, and I get a call from Sean's little brother Corey. They're looking for a bass player for the original band Sloman. I said, okay, all original, all in, all the time. This is what we're gonna do. So and I did. I love that band. I love those guys, Ken, your brother Corey, and Hal. It was a great band. I know there might have been a conflict of interest in terms of the song selection, the choices, but I thought they were great songs. We were pretty much all original. I think we have 5 cover songs. We played everywhere as we possibly could for free. I don't think we ever got paid once. Well, I shouldn't say we got paid a couple of times. We played Fleet Club and one gig at a for somebody, but it was never any money. But it was trying to get exposure, and we were trying to sell ourselves and give the package. And, you know, it was a lot of fun. That band, and that was another. That was a 93 to 95, and that was it for me. Got my hair cut. That was it. Started working in the guitar business, and I hung up my bass for. Well, that's not true either. I ended up playing at a church band, so I picked up the bass there, and they wanted a worship team, and they needed a bass player, which is kind of weird. So I said, well, okay, I'll play. And at that time, I loved the songs, but it was your attack. Obviously, it wasn't going to be a rock attack anymore. I still kind of played a rock. That's what I was. But I ended up using more of a finger technique. So I had to learn finger, so it'd be a little softer. It wouldn't be as harsh, I guess. So I would play on Sundays there for about 10, 12 years. That's all the playing I did until, well, you can tell the rest of the story. So 2000.
I guess 2000, I moved back from Toronto after myself having not played for, I guess, 5 years. Yeah, close to 5 years. And came back, and the first thing you did was you got to meet this guy, Scott Chevrier. And it's like, well, I know Scott. I've known Scott for years. And so I might have played a little bit at the church because I had to get the chops back. But it was myself, you, Scott, Paul Ranson. Does that sound right?
Yep.
We were just a 4-piece, I think.
The odd time we bring in Arthur Zilkowski, who would play some fiddle and the guitar and some backups.
Right. And Arthur was a beast. I actually missed seeing that beast. And unfortunately, that was, I guess, a version of Full Circle, and Scott did another one after us. But I love playing with Scott, talented guy. My frustration when I came back was I wanted to play again. And Scott, I guess at the time, wasn't super motivated. We did a handful of shows. Yeah. We did a bit. We did a show at the Copper Penny that Terry Mosier has a live recording of that I would love to hear.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that'd be weird. We played Breakfast Television how many times? We played. I think we were in that band for what, 8 months? We played Breakfast Television about 7 times. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And then Scott and I kind of had a difference of opinion, we'll call it, and that was that. And we started filling the blank.
I remember very well.
And that was with Scott Harnish, who's going to be a guest on the show. And that was a fun little run. And Fill in the Blank became Caper, but this is the Dave McPherson story, not the Sean McKenna story. But I guess
the same old story. Dave has great intentions, and I get busy. So the Fill in the Blank band was going to be our, that was the year 2000, maybe 2001. I can't remember what exactly year it was, but that was going to be our victory dance back to the live scene, because it wasn't bad. It still was some clubs to play. We played at what was a hub called MT Bellies, I think it was called then. I guess I thought it was called, or yes, it was called the Ice House. I guess it was called the Ice House 2
It
or
was, yeah.
some crazy thing. Played the Palace with that band. We played Pepper, what else? A handful of gigs, and we wanted to have fun. We were playing current songs, good songs, good lineup, uh, all the makings. But then I got the opportunity of a dream job, and I started, I had started a new job that's gonna be more demanding, so I had to bow out. And again, Sean, I didn't talk for 10 years. So that's kind of the way things work. They went on with Caper and had a great run with Caper. Now, in between that time, I had sold all my gear because I was done with music. I sold my Ibanez, sold this database amp. Now, I had still kept, when I bought that database amp, just give you a little background, I bought it from Rick Madokas, who was at Music Stop. Rick Madokas is a fantastic musician. God love him, he's passed away now. But he's the one who recommended this gear to me. And he said, you want to have this 115 and a 210 cabinet. Perfect. And it was a monster to carry around. But when I sold the amp, I kept the cabinet because I'll use that 210 cabinet again. I know I will. And so I kept it for, 15 years after that. Somewhere along the way, I went back to Music Stop. It's like, you know what? I know what it was. It's just around time in full circle. And I bought this Gens Benz amp. And I'd seen this broken down Gens Benz amp sitting there at, or Gens Benz, I still don't know how to say it properly, at Music Stop Forever in Halifax store. And I played every time I tried a different bass hitter there. I tried this amp, and I like the sound of it, but it looked so beat up I couldn't buy it. So I found a brand new combo amp, 100 watts or 150 watts maybe it is. I can't think how loud it is, but it has the opportunity for an auxiliary speaker for this 210 cabinet that I would use sometimes. And I loved the sound. It's the closest sound I could get to Tim Hewitt with the gear I had, because it was a very active equalization system on it. And the tone of it was perfect. Every single time it was perfect, every time. And at that point, I went to, I got to tell the rest of the story. So when I first started playing bass, I used my brother-in-law's bass. Now, y'all might know my brother-in-law, Calvin Smith, who played Tyrant. So he wasn't playing anymore. I was trying to put bands together between Cradle and Mirror Image. I was trying to put different bands together with another friend of mine. We were living in Halifax. I put all my gear, because we were trying out bands, folks like Scott Harnish and all these other guys we were playing with. Left my gear in the car overnight one time. I was living in Clayton Park, all ripped off. So I was using my old keyboard amp as a bass amp, and this bass that I borrowed from my brother-in-law Carl, and it's stolen. Now that Roadstar was the only bass I ever played as my own. It wasn't my own; it was his. So when this Roadstar 2 bass, which was kind of a precision bass, but it wasn't a precision, so I get small fingers, I guess, comparatively, and I could never play it. It's hard to get a precision bass, but this Roadstar was good. When it was stolen, and I got the Ibanez Sound Gear bass, it was perfect. It was smaller frets. It was awesome. When I sold that, I was going to go get another one. I had it in my hand to get this Ibanez Roadstar, and the guy said, "Too bad you didn't like Fender." It's like, well, although I like Fender now, I couldn't play a precision bass because I got these little fingers. It's like I couldn't do it. Right? I tried it for Paul. Paul Austin offered me a gig, which ironically I told Trevor to take, or Ian. I guess I always give Ian gigs because I started working at the hospital then. So I said, no, I can't do it. I can't play a precision. I tried it. Is this too big? So because, well, it's not a precision. It's a jazz. It's like, weren't you the same? It's no. So I've had that jazz bass now for 15 years, and it was already 2 or 3 years old. It's a beautiful. I love that guitar. Love this guitar. It's my favorite purchase I ever made. So that Fender Jazz that I've got now for 18 years. So that's the guitar I played all along. That's what I was playing at Full Circle. When the Full Circle thing fell apart, we went to fill in the blank. I took the time off. I just put it away. Again, put it away until 2012. That's when I picked it up again. Sorry, I apologize. 2011, I got a call from my old friend Paul Gallant, who I used to play with band with years ago. Now you, John, are my favorite drummer for many, many, many reasons. But Paul was a close second because Paul, he was crazy. He was so powerful all the time. It's so loud. So I had to get another amp. I had my big Gens Benz amp with the the 210 cabinet and the 115. Plus I bought an SWR Working Man head and cabinet with 410s. So I had two amps running stereo to try and keep up with it because he was so fucking loud. Like he was just that loud a drummer, right? So with me and Paul Glenn, John Pierce playing keyboards, Les Brown was playing guitar, and Ralph Wiswell was trying to do some singing, I guess, in this Deep Purple cover band. And Les Brown played in another band called Midlife Crisis. So we worked hard in that band. I knew it was never going to play. Where Deep Purple played here, they had 4,000 people here. We were doing a cover band. How many people could we possibly attract? But I wanted to get back into playing. This is my way back into playing again. And it was a lot of fun. We worked hard on it for about 8 months. And finally I said, I can't do this anymore. This isn't going anywhere. It's not worth the effort anymore. It's just really not. Boy from Midlife was looking for a bass player. I went with that band, and that was a 3-year run with those guys with Midlife Crisis, and I love that stuff. The songs I never played before, all the songs you used to call rubber boots off of music, is that what you called it?
Yep.
Yeah. I loved it. I never played those songs. I never played Groundhog Girl before. I never played Sweet Caroline before. To me, it was all brand new. So Midlife to me was it was a lot of fun, and it was a learning curve. We played a lot of different venues. And it was a good time. I had a really good time with that band. Great guys. That was Les Brown, Eddie Duggan, Floyd Knox, Danny Hoskin, and myself. Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not anti those tunes, but Caper started shortly after fill in the blank, so that would have been, let me think about this now, 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. 2002. And, our first rehearsal was at Steve Burgess' house, and we did, what did we do? We did Rattle and Bog, which became a staple for that band. We did the Gordon Lightfoot tune, Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, but it was like a 20-minute friggin' rubber boot. And
really?
did, yep. And we did Patty Murphy, and those were the 3 tunes that we rehearsed them for maybe a week. And then it was kind of like, geez, we could play. And I bugged Michaud Corey at the Ale House and called him. And one day I got him on the phone. He goes, can I call you back? I'm like, no, you can't. I've been trying to get a hold of you for 3 weeks. And he booked us, and we just started playing, and that's where we went. But my point is, because this is a Dave story, the stops and the starts and whatever, I think they're important because if you're not feeling it and it's not something that you're into, why bother? It's just like a job. You're just punching the clock, right?
Yeah.
And and it's funny what you mentioned Midlife, because I didn't know why you left that band, and I mean we go up, we see them with Ian, and they're a fun band to watch. But it does get to the point where I don't know, maybe it's lack of gigs, or maybe it's lots of gigs for no money, or there's different reasons why you just decide to not do it anymore.
It's all timing, Sean. Like, let's be honest. I mean, you had 3 kids. I mean, at that point, I had a very demanding job, and I still have a very demanding job. It takes up a lot of my time, a lot of my mental focus. And at the end of the day, I'm kind of spent. I really am. And I've been there for 20 years. It's my staple gig, obviously. So, and I was married. I had 4 children, 4 girls. Buying houses, selling houses, buying cars, just stuff, moving and just I was just busy all the time. It's probably my own fault because I was busy all the time. But when I needed a healthy release, like playing music again, when I figured it in my head, it's like, okay, what's wrong with me? I just need something. I need to play music again. So 2011, I tried it. It wasn't the right venue per se. It's 2012. I went with Midlife, and and my wife was on board at the time. So because he met the guys in the band, and we played a lot. When that wasn't the case anymore, and there was maybe some friction at home, it was like it was tougher to do. And so, but I had to make a choice. I mean, we were playing so much. It was like another full-time job. I had a full-time job, very demanding full-time job. I was a full-time parent. My wife was going to school. I was watching these children, plus playing full-time. It's like, holy God, man, so something's got to give, right? And that's what I had to give was the music again. It kind of had to give. So, fast forward 5 years later, and now it's a little bit different situation.
Well,
Like,
good on you, man. Big gig, but I'm just kidding. But so now we're we you and I are talking about trying to do this little side hustle. We've done a couple of gigs. I think we're gonna try to get something going with our good buddy Trevor Oxford. And this gentleman that you found, I don't know where you met him, but quite a talent.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We'll drop some names for that later on, obviously, as we go along. But it's again, that's my superpower. I just want to attract myself to folks who, because again, I don't find I'm an adequate player. I'm not going to be a star player like like the Bruce Dixons, like Bruce Kilpatrick, for all the Bruces, for Tim Hewitt and all these guys that have been my heroes all my life. I'm a John Chase. I'm a decent player. I love what I do, and I'm I have a passion for it, and I became a decent singer in terms of a background singer. So I worked on that for a long time. I did some kitchen party stuff with playing keyboards and guitar. I haven't played that stuff in 20 odd years. I haven't, but it's like, it's this, we talked about this before. It's kind of like that itch under your skin. You can't get it. You try to get rid of it, but it's just in you, this music. So I want to get involved in it again. And I think back in my 35-year career of playing instruments, probably 25 of those 35 years was trying to put a band together. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny how it all works out. But I'm glad we played when we did. I'm glad I played when I did. I had to stop when I stopped, and I don't regret those times either, because I have 4 beautiful children, and I have a lot of things that I've done, places I've traveled to. But now I'm just at a point in my life where I can devote some more time to that. My kids are older, and situation's a little different. And you know what? I think it'll be fun again to play. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and it's funny, just you're talking about ability and where you are and being fine with where you are. I read a really funny article, John Entwistle of The Who. It was an article about Keith Moon. It went a little something like this. Keith Moon would always say, if they were talking about a drummer that was, oh, here's a good drummer. Keith Moon would always say, yeah, he's great, but he's not a Keith Moon type drummer. In other words, I do what I do, and he ain't me, and I ain't him, but I'm what I bring to the table is the best what I do for the band. And John Entwistle would always say that was always his go-to.
Yeah.
You and I are the same cloth, because I feel I might see somebody, yeah, he's not a Sean McKenna drummer. I won't shit on them, because it's not that I'm so great. It's just I do what I do, and it works.
Yeah.
If I deviate from the program, like I always get chicken fingers and fries. If I order the steak sandwich, I'm getting myself in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And so, that I think that's why you and I have always had sort of success when we played, because we knew our spot. We complemented, because it's a real long time to understand. I'm not a soloist. I'm an accompanist.
Right.
Exactly. That's where
yeah. And that's why really, when I think back to it, when I was playing guitar, and I wasn't a badly guitar player. If I kept going, I probably would have got a lot better. But I didn't have I don't know what it was. It's just like I got discouraged pretty quickly. It's like, man, this Kevin McCann guy's a lot better than me. Oh my God, this Peter Dolmont guy's a lot better than me. Oh my God, look at this guy. Look at this guy. Oh, I can never compete with those guys. Fuck it. I'll do this rhythm guitar and keyboards. And then it's like, oh, look at Neil McKinnon. Oh, look at John Pierre. Look at Trevor Oxford. Oh, fuck it. Fuck it all. Stop playing. And bass is just. It's funny because even when I was playing guitar and keyboards, I kind of tended to play along with the drummer, so it was always kind of been there. You know what I mean? I've always had a decent time. I think I always kept pretty good timing in my head. And the last couple of bands put I forget about Third Gear. The Third Gear band came together after Midlife. And that was myself and Danny Hoskin and Ian McDougall, who's a great talent, super great talent, very good friend of mine. And although we played a handful of times with that band too, great vocals, and that's always been the big forte for me, is to have a real strong vocal band, because that's different. Not everybody has that. If you have a 3 or 4 piece harmony, oh my God, that's different. That's bringing you back to the Journey and the Beatles and the stuff that I grew up on and I love so much. And so that's important to me. to be an all-around musician, not just once. You mentioned that before. Somebody talked about this. We talked to so many people in the last couple of weeks, but it's not. I think it was. It might have been Lee, and it's not just one star player in the band. It's the whole band accompanies the feel or the emotions. They emoted something because of their whole band. So you had great players or adequate players putting together a great product, and that was more important to me than being the virtuoso. And I love virtuosos. I'm not one. You know what I mean? I'm the guy who's just going to be solid in the background, right? Providing youthful exuberance and glamour.
And I'll like this. Well, I personally think it takes great confidence to be somebody that's a team player who is not worried about being out in the front all the time. The confidence of not playing so much, knowing that you're maybe not going to get the prompts that you would want, but the whole band gets it. There's a lot of confidence in that. And I think maybe I'm starting to realize that maybe the guys like Lee and those guys, I think that's kind of what we learned and we didn't realize we were learning until now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I think that's through all this, the last 13 days, that's some of what I'm starting to get in my head of all these conversations. And it's very cool. We got to wrap. And
yep.
I know you have the timer, but I think we're pretty close.
Yeah.
The interviews with you and I, the whole design was be icebreakers. Again, it's not about Sean and Dave. We're having a ton of fun on the show. We could not even talk about ourselves, and that would be awesome. But sometimes you get to throw yourself out there to get other people to throw themselves out there, and that's what this was designed to do. And I think you and I both hope that is the hope. Chris Monroe's show, watching us fumble around like a couple of dudes, right? So, I mean, mission accomplished.
Yeah. We'll talk to folks like, Ian Fancy and Peter Dolmont that we played with before. We'll talk to, and, like anybody you kind of nominate that you want to talk to. It's hard. Kind of funny is Sean just said this, like, oh, yeah, it just, but you just get wrapped up. Sean and I were just talking. It wasn't me being a rock star. It wasn't Sean being, like a rock star in his interview. We want to make sure that, it's just two guys talking. So when you come on the show, we're just going to be talking about stuff that you care about. That's all. It's real life things, and I just kind of snap back to reality. It's like, hey, I forgot that we were doing an interview. That's kind of what just happened there. It's kind of funny. So it could be my seventh drink too. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, we're happy that you're watching this show, that you're paying attention to it. If my little interview here, Sean's interview from a couple of days ago, helps you to think, hey, I want to tell my story too. This is your forum. This is your opportunity because folks care. Or if they don't, they can fast forward to the next interview. Who cares? We're just having fun.
We got a good one coming up a couple of good ones that were. That being said, I think we're signing off for tonight, Dave. Are we not?
Yes, we are. So I'm Dave. He's Sean. We're Barstools and Bandtalk. Had some really wonky internet connection this week. But yeah.
All right.
Guys, if we can talk about it, you can talk about it. So come on the show. Peace out.